Welcome, boys and girls. Christine here with a discussion about Dawn of War 4. They have released a trailer for the orcs, but of course it ended up being stolen by the Blood Ravens. I suppose if you're gonna have Blood Ravens in a video game, they are gonna end up stealing everything, including the orc trailer, because we did have a big focus on Jonah Orion, on Cyrus showing up, but we also did have Gorgutz, who may or may not be using the walking stick he had acquired at the end of the last game. I'm not quite sure. Maybe he has it there behind his shoulders, maybe not. Unsure about that. Hell of a walking stick. I'm not sure what you would call the Spear of Cain at this point, really. Like, what exactly was it? Like a demonic weapon? A fake weapon with a ritual on top of it? Hard to say. We just know Gorgutz has acquired it. And yes, Greenskins having something like that is, well, let's just say, I guess, typical and potential for complete and utter disaster. But anyway, Gorgutz has apparently been chasing the Blood Ravens following the events of Game 3, and he finally caught up to them. A strike cruiser, specifically, under the command of Jonah and Cyrus, who I'm guessing he is a captain at this point. And he corners them over Cronus. So, we're back in Cronus. I'm guessing this is the starting point of the campaign. This specific cinematic is setting up Game 4 in its entirety. So the Blood Ravens crash land on the planet, and the orcs pursue them, and they crash harder, as Gorgutz does say in the trailer. And that's the setup for the entirety of Game 4. And of course, we're going to have Adeptus Mechanicus, we're going to have Necrons, we might even at one point, maybe as a story DLC, end up actually having Imperial Guard, because King Art Game has done story DLCs before. If you look at Iron Harvest, that is something that they've done with regards to that game, specifically with the Americans, quote-unquote. But anyway, so that is the setup. We got to see a bunch of action between orcs and space marines, and we did get the setup for what's going to happen in the game. Now, there's a couple of very interesting details that have been revealed by the developers in various blogs since that initial reveal trailer months ago. And what I personally expect is that the release of the game might be sooner than a lot of people might think. See, if you were to ask a lot of people, they might say that the game is going to come out in later this year. I'm not quite sure on that. See, if you were, that would be true if they hadn't just released this trailer. By releasing this trailer, and I'm guessing they've had this footage for a while, but by releasing this trailer, they might be indicating they're about to start full-on marketing for Dawn of War 4. Now, when would it come out? That's the big question. When is the actual release schedule of this game? Well, we don't know, though various rumors might suggest April or May, maybe even June. Though, of course, if you want to be more cynical, you could always take the view that the game is not going to come out then. It will come out later, which would be something like September. The reason I don't believe the game is going to come out later this year is not because that wouldn't make sense, it would, but rather because of competition. If they release it earlier this year, then in the latter part of this year, they would actually have less competition. And one of the things I would like to remind people is we also have Total War 4K. We don't know when that's going to come out, but various leaks on that subject is that Total War 4K might be coming out late this year or early next year. Don't know on that subject. And I don't think Creative Assembly knows themselves, but yes, we do have Dawn of War 4, we do have Mechanicus 2, we do have Total War 4K, and we do also have a lot of different games, right, that are going to potentially eclipse anything in terms of a Total War video game. So the developers have to weigh all of those things and decide based on that, and of course the development state of the game, as to when they'll actually release it. I think it would make a lot more sense for the game to be released earlier than later from a release schedule perspective. Though, again, it depends on market conditions, depends what games are coming out and when. GTA 6 is a big question mark, right? Whenever that comes out, it's just going to demolish everything else that's on the market, so you don't want to release it in the same month or maybe even same quarter as GTA 6. At least not the same month. So that is obviously a consideration for a lot of different developers at this point. Now, for the game in question, I would say that from an audio perspective, they do need to improve combat sounds a lot more, especially bolter weapons or just weapons, ranged weapons in general. They still sound very bad, really. I mean, the voice acting was pretty good in the trailer, and just all the footage we've seen so far, the voice acting has been pretty good. What's been less great has been the weapon sounds, just the combat sounds in general. So, like, the game looks pretty good. Sure. Could look better, obviously, but, development in progress and all that kind of stuff. The game does look pretty good, however, but the sounds of it, the sounds of combat, bolter fire, that's something I believe they should keep working on. Very important details, though, with regards to the campaign, because that's going to be the meat of this game, not multiplayer, and I think that's a crucial aspect for a strategy game. Like, a lot of strategy games try and, we'll make multiplayer and put all our focus on that. That can work, but I like to remind people that the best strategy games that have ever been made had a single-player focus, with multiplayer being kind of secondary, or the first objective was releasing a good single-player experience and then working on multiplayer, because that's how you hook in people, that's how you create a good community, that's how you get initial interest, and then the focus on multiplayer can come later. That's my perspective. I think King Art game is showing that same kind of mentality. What we have been told with regards to campaigns is that there's going to be over 70 missions, but you're not going to be able to play all of those missions in a single campaign. You're going to have to choose. And apparently, the choice you're going to have to make will involve different sub-factions. Like, if you're playing Greenskins, you're going to have to decide on a mission based on the two war bosses. So there's going to be a competitor to Gorgutz. So you're going to have two big Greenskins fighting against each other for, I guess, power and dominance, because that's what Greenskins do. I mean, I hope Gorgutz ends up on top, because he's Gorgutz. But that is how that's going to work. And with regards to the Blood Ravens, what they said specifically on that subject is you're going to have a similar choice between Blood Ravens and the Dark Angels. Lionel Johnson is apparently going to be in the game, but not necessarily in a huge capacity. He might show up for 1 or 2 missions, something along those lines. But you are going to be fighting, you're going to have missions as the Archangels, you're going to have missions as the Blood Ravens, and I imagine something similar is going to happen with both the Necrons and the Adeptus Mechanicus. Now, the way I would expect that with regards to the Necrons in particular, with Adeptus Mechanicus, I'm unsure, but with the Necrons, you could have missions where you decide based on the local Necron faction, because Cronus is a tomb world, versus Necrons that are coming to help them, or Necrons that have arrived at the planet from space. So, 2 dynasties, I imagine. And kind of an important factor about the Necrons on Cronus, they were Necrons using the Silent King's symbolism. So, spoiler alert, maybe we get the Silent King? Who knows? We already get Lionel Johnson. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if Angelus shows up, and many other different people, right? I think it would be weird if Gabriel Angelus didn't show up in a Dawn of War game. That is my perspective on that subject. I mean, we have Gorgutz, Cyrus, Jonah. Yeah, I think Gabriel should show up. I kind of wish they stopped changing voice actors for these characters. Like, Cyrus is the only one that has been consistent on that. Gorgutz has been all over the place, I think. Though I believe they're reusing his voice actor from Dawn of War 3, though I could be wrong. Don't quote me on that. I'm just giving my perspective on this. But yeah, looks very interesting. Can't wait for it. We'll see what happens with regards to marketing. If you see a marketing ramp up over the next couple of weeks, then it means the release is sooner than we might expect. But we'll find out on that. Worth pointing out as well, as a final note, that they have had various alpha tests done, closed alpha tests being done as well, rather recently. So who knows where development actually is. Kostin signing out. Stay tuned for more.